Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Since it is still fall, I figured I should take this opportunity to dive deep into that Gilmore Girls world. And also because Gilmore Girls will forevermore be my favorite comfort show as I long for that small town, walkable city vibe and tight-knit community. And also because a lot of you love to do Rory Gilmore character analysis, so why not we also unravel the elements that make up one of the main characters of the show, and that is Lorelai Gilmore, the other half of the Gilmore Girls, aka Rory's mother, aka the definition of
not like a regular mom, I'm a cool mom.
So the two Gilmore Girls definitely have an interesting relationship. It's almost as if they're like sisters slash best friends.
Kirk asked me out.
Shut up.
Yesterday he came to the inn and asked me to dinner.
That's so sweet.
Sweet?
You should wear your dress with the ponies on it. I bet he likes ponies.
And we've seen and talked about Rory's downfall in the previous video.
Her character development, or lack thereof, was severely disappointing, and we can't help but wonder what happened to our golden...
But what is up with Lorelai? So just for a brief background, the Gilmore Girls started with Rory attending at Chilton, a private, prestigious school that is far from what Lorelai can afford, and this is the reason why she opted to take out a loan from her parents, who are stinking rich, by the way, and I'm telling you, like rich, like old money rich, to pay for her daughter's tuition. Her parents, of course, nonetheless agreed, but on one condition.
I want a weekly dinner. What? Friday nights, you and Rory will have dinner here.
So basically the situation with Lorelai and her parents is somehow we can say is a conditional relationship. They don't exactly get along, and Lorelai, being the only child, was brought up with all the attention that any child could probably ever receive from a parent. Now you might think this is a good thing, like they are very hands-on and they really care for their daughter. But the issue lies with them being controlling and nitpicking with judgment every single thing Lorelai does. She often expressed how she feels confined to living in that house and how she was gaslighted and manipulated to follow the desires of her parents. So she didn't really have a lot of freedom growing up. She was being watched closely like a hawk because her parents value reputation earnestly, and already has this like perfect curated plan for Lorelai's future, and it's as if Lorelai's life is not her own.
You wanted to control me.
You were still a child.
I stopped being a child the minute the strip turned pink, okay?
And so when Lorelai got pregnant at 16, we can take this as some sort of like a reaction or rebellion of her going against her parents, though it was not the intended circumstance. But this was the highlighted beginning of Lorelai taking on a path on her own, where never in her 16 years of existence did she ever truly got to experience. And so she literally did just that. She moved away from her parents and lived in a small town named Stars Hollow and raised her daughter Rory on her own. And much like going against her parents, she raised Rory differently. She didn't want to have the kind of relationship she had with her parents with Rory. This is not to say that Lorelai is a bad mother. I truly feel that she is a good mother. And in regards to Rory's downfall, that was all Rory. I don't blame Lorelai for any of the stuff that Rory did, and I feel like she raised Rory in the best way that she can think of, and not to mention being so young when she had that responsibility of having to take care of a whole human being. And because of her being super young when she had Rory, they have a special bond that is close to that of a friendship. Like all throughout, you can sense how understanding and maternal Lorelai was with Rory. Like cliche as it sounds, she would literally do anything for Rory. Rory is basically her whole life. Even goes as far as lowering her pride by seeking help from her controlling parents just so Rory could take her step in pursuing her dreams towards Harvard.
It's not for me, it's for Rory. And I fully intend to pay you back every cent. I don't ask for favors, you know that.
Oh yes, we know.
I'll get the checkbook.
And I really love the open communication those two Gilmore Girls have. Like, just by looking at them, you couldn't really tell that they're mother and daughter. But also because she was put in a situation where she was emotionally neglected by her parents, as well as having the need to like grow up faster than usual, she had her fair share of difficulties in her perspectives and attitudes, specifically towards relationships. Now, we've all seen Miss Lorelai Gilmore jumping in and out of relationships. Not that it's a bad thing, but you can tell Miss Lorelai Gilmore has some major commitment issues. The first love interest we have seen in the show was her ex-boyfriend, the one who impregnated her, also Rory's dad, Christopher. Now, people on the show, mainly Lorelai's parents, consistently tries to push Christopher and Lorelai together. Because for whatever reason, there's like some force that pushes them to bump into one another. And as a result, the two would end up getting back together. And at first, it would seem like it's finally working. But then timing is a bitch. It often leads to a disappointing breakup or a miscommunication, and somehow the two don't seem to learn from their past mistakes that they will never ever fit.
Are you gonna marry her? Yes. Then, honey, we are where we are. Accept it.
Lorelai herself does not deny the fact that Christopher will always have a special place in her heart. But just because there's that wave of familiarity and spice between the two of you, that doesn't mean that he is the one for you, honey. Honey? Christopher was definitely just a guy who was Lorelai's first love and whom she shares a lot of history with, but not necessarily the one. The second love interest is Max Medina. Now, this one is my definition of right person, wrong time. Like, Miss Girl really rejected Max Medina's proposal. Okay, correction, not rejected, but she called off the wedding. He was such a gentleman, mature and chivalrous, like he literally was the perfect ideal guy.
Wait. 10 feet.
10 feet?
That's a safe distance for us. And the more furniture in between, the better.
I'm not gonna attack you.
I'm not worried about you, I'm worried about me.
But I guess Lorelai was just not in that point of her life that she was willing to completely settle down. So this one is literally a missed opportunity. Okay, I'm not going to dive deep into Lorelai's relationship with Jason Stiles and Alex Lesman, mainly because I feel that the relationships were so random and just didn't have chemistry at all. So I'm going automatically to Luke Danes. Luke Danes was the last, excluding Christopher, last relationship of Lorelai. He was Lorelai's most serious relationship that eventually got Lorelai to commit. And when I tell you this is a slow burn romance, this is literally so slow. Luke, despite his arrogant and moody nature, was a proxy fodder for basically Rory's entire life. Luke and Lorelai have known each other for years, they've already built this friendship, and they've always had this flirty banter thing going on, but it never really led to somewhere.
You look nice. Really nice.
Had a meeting earlier at the bank. They like collars. You look nice too.
The two would secretly express passive-aggressive jealousy whenever the other dates someone. And I can infer that when Luke and Lorelai got together, Lorelai was basically at that point in her life where she is fully satisfied and contented with her dreams of independence. Like, she was able to make her way up from being a maid at the local inn to managerial position, and now having her own inn with her best friend slash business partner, Suki. Even though Luke and Lorelai have broken up a few times, but because they were both in that stage in their lives that they are emotionally and mentally mature and as well completely satisfied and contented with their independent lives, that the two found their way to each other. I mean, it took them this long to finally be together. Like, they literally got married when Rory was 32, and so yeah, it literally took them a long time, and there was a lot of opportunities for growth. They needed to fix things first with their personal lives, especially with Lorelai's relationship with her parents. We've seen the family's relationship progress throughout the show, from being cold and distant to basically having a normal parent-child relationship. And because of the childhood pains that were inflicted on her by her parents, she has not been able to commit to a serious relationship unless she fixed the ones that already exist in her life.
Why can't we have what you and Rory have? We're mother and daughter, you're mother and daughter. It shouldn't be that different.
It's completely different. It couldn't be more different.
But why?
So reflecting back on Lorelai's storyline in comparison to Rory's, Lorelai's parts showcased more of her growing up and being at peace with all of the wounds and pains that were introduced to us in the beginning of the show. Like, at first she was portrayed as this somehow immature and childlike parent, which enables her to relate to Rory. And Rory was kind of like the grown-up in their relationship dynamic. But as the show progresses, Lorelai's attitude of being childish was just her coping mechanism to relieve the youth that she never got to live. And despite her childlike nature, she was quite ahead of her age. Like we've seen her make mistakes, learn, being independent, taking accountability, and lastly, acceptance because of her fear of being owned by someone and the fear of being controlled by that said person. By the end of the show, she was able to distinguish herself with how genuine, raw, authentic relationship can be without it having been conditional. And same thing goes for her parents as well, as they have come to restore their relationship with their daughter. I really love that the show's characters each has their own substance and storyline, that people could do interpretations and analysis like this. Like the show's characters were being portrayed as these complex personalities, like that the viewers have each their own opinions about such characters. And for me, I really love Lorelai's character. Sure, she has her ups and downs. She was pretty harsh towards Jess, my boyfriend Jess, and has been so emotionally confusing with her romantic relationships. But the way the show develops her character for me seems to be like a series of making mistakes and learning from them. Like Lorelai went through some really hard stuff, and while we are all so caught up with Rory's downfall, we fail to recognize that Lorelai's storyline was primarily situated on her growth. And I don't think other people recognize how humble and resilient she was. Sure, she has some privileges, but her attitude, mindset, and the way she brought up Rory and her being active in the town's most bizarro activities seems to imply that she is a free-spirited, wholesome character. And as I was watching the show, I get to like really appreciate her pathway to growth. And that is it for our video today. Thank you so much guys for watching, and comment down below what you think of Lorelai Gilmore, because I've heard there's like a significant amount of people who don't like Lorelai, and I want to hear your thoughts. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.